In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to make one of these simple but elegant medieval lanterns. They're cheap, they're very easy to make, you don't need anything more specialized than a power drill and a pumpkin carver, and they're really handy in that they have this little mechanism that lets you bring the candle up to the surface. So let's get started. You're going to start with these hexagonal shadow boxes, and I got these for 75 cents each at Michael's, and you're going to remove this hardware and the string, and obviously the sticker, and end up with something that looks like this. You'll want two of these, right? One for the top and one for the bottom. Okay, so here we have them with the hardware removed, and these are a little messier than the last time I did this. The holes are a little crummier, bigger, and otherwise noticeable, so if I really feel like it later, I might go back with some wood filler. But for now, it doesn't matter too much, so we're just going to ignore them for now, and we're going to keep going. In addition to your two shadow boxes, you're going to need 6 posts to go between them. And so this is a 3/8 of an inch dowel rod that I've cut into 6.5 inch lengths. The length doesn't matter. That's just the one that I liked. It doesn't have to be accurate to any specific measurement as long as they're all the same. In addition to that, I have one slightly smaller dowel rod that's about 3/4 of an inch longer than those 6 posts. I picked up some of these wide craft sticks because they're about the width of the circle I'm going to be cutting for my tea light. As you can see, right, they're just about like that. And since no one's going to see the whole thing, I don't desperately need to have a little tab. I can just cut this stick off about here instead. And this way I have a nice rigid little platform for my tea light to sit on. So you're also going to need something to cover your lantern with. Traditionally, that would have been something like rawhide. So subbing in for rawhide today is paper, translucent paper. So you can either use parchment, but my parchment, as you can see, has all kinds of markings on it, and I really don't want an authentic medieval lantern that says Reynolds Kitchens all over it. So I'm instead going to use this vellum paper right here. And these are just 8x11 sheets, and I'm going to cut them to size and wrap them around. So optionally, and this is totally optional because the glue should be strong enough for most purposes, but since I'm going to be taking this lantern into a parade, I want to make sure it's not going to fall apart, especially if it gets jostled, banged up somehow. So I'm going to secure my posts with these tiny screws. And so I have this drawer of tiny screws that I've been collecting over time from various things. When I throw things out, I keep the screws. And so I'm going to pick out the tiny ones, and I'm going to use these to secure my posts. At the top, I'm actually going to use the screws from the hardware that came off the top, and I'll just use 4 of them, and that'll be sufficient. So the first step is to take one of your hexagonal pieces and draw a circle around the center, and you're going to cut that circle out. And next to the circle, you're going to punch a hole about that far, and that will be for you to put your dowel rod through so you can lift your little candle platform up and down. So the tools you're going to need for this project are a drill, a glue gun, and one of these little pumpkin carving knives that you get in those sets, around Halloween. And this is the perfect little jigsaw, like hand-powered jigsaw. So that's what you're going to use to cut the circle in your hexagonal piece. So okay, we're going to get started. I'm going to start by cutting my hole in my hexagonal piece. And I'm going to do that by drilling a hole through the center first. And I'm going to do that over top of this handy piece of wood, so that this piece of scrap wood from the yard, so that when my drill inevitably punches through, it'll hit the piece of wood and not my nice hardwood floor. Okay, my hole is cut out, and that took, I don't know, a minute at most. That pumpkin carver is really handy. I do have a jigsaw, but I don't have a proper shop, and there's no way I could clamp this down. This little thing is perfect for the job. So what we're going to do now is just sand this down and smooth this out a bit because it's a little rough in places. And then we'll be ready to just punch a hole right next to it somewhere. You don't have to make a perfect measurement. Just make sure there's a little space between the hole and the hole you're drilling, and you're good to go. All right, so we've cut our holes in our top piece, and now we are ready to attach our posts first to the bottom piece. So we're going to be using a little bit of wood glue, and we'll need a paintbrush and our glue gun. And what we're going to do is take, for each post, a little bit of the glue and put it on the end, like so. And then each post is also going to get, at the bottom, just a little bit of hot glue, like so, just so we can press it into the corner. And we're going to do that all the way around. Okay, so those are in place, and so now we are going to put the top piece on. So each of these, and we're going to have to do these kind of all at once, but also sort of not. So each of these is going to get a little bit of glue on the top, and we're going to do that part all at once because I can't get at them again once that piece is on. But we're not going to add any hot glue just yet, because otherwise it'll get cold and then it won't go into position right. So we're going to put our top piece upside down, and we are going to slide these into place. Like so. And now that it's in place, they have a little bit of give, and so we're just going to scooch them forward a little bit, inject a little bit of glue one by one, and put them into position. Okay, so with those in position, the next thing to do is drill some holes for our handle, which will be made of a little rope. So I'm just going to turn this on its side and kind of eyeball it right about there. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side. And there's that. Now we're ready for some handles. Okay, so everything is glued together, and really this should be strong enough. For most things, it's not going to be a problem, but just in case I want to give it a little extra grip, and so I am going to flip this over, and I am going to insert little screws into each of these posts just to make sure they don't let go. Okay, so I put the little screws in, and I'm sure there are ways of disguising them. I could take some little slices of dowel rod and maybe drill out the center, but I am not that motivated, especially since I'll be using these in the dark. So I'm just going to move on to attaching my handle, in this case a string, and so I have pushed a string through from the outside. I'm going to tie a knot in the bottom here. I used some tape to keep this good and small to go through the hole, and I'm going to just trim off a little bit of the end. I'm going to tie a knot so it doesn't slide back out, and do the same to the other side. With the handle attached, it's time to put in a little support for the candle. So I'm going to take one of these wide craft sticks that are roughly the same size, so they're kind of perfect, and I'm going to attach this slightly thinner dowel rod to it, and I'm going to have to do this when it's already inside. So I'm going to slide this in. I'm going to slide my craft stick, get it just to just the right width, slap on a dab of glue, and drop this dowel rod onto it, and then it'll be ready to go. Okay, in the end, I did have to trim it just a little bit. This wood is so thin you can literally cut it with scissors, so that took seconds. So I'm going to attach a little tea light holder to it before I actually glue it down. And to do that, you're going to take a piece of cardstock or thick paper, like watercolor paper will work, probably something a little thicker than construction paper, but nonetheless something with a little rigidity to it. And this is 1.25 inches wide. It's a strip of paper 1.25 inches wide. I'm going to cut it down so it is the length of the circumference of the tea light. And as you can see, I've scored it 1/2 inch in, just using the backside of scissors. And then I've folded it, and what I'm going to do is cut that 1/2 inch into a fringe. Here is my strip with the fringe cut, and what I'm going to do is loop it around, put a little blob of glue along here, and I'm going to loop this around into a little ring. And once you've formed a ring, you can fold in the tabs underneath, the fringe underneath into the center, and you get a little container. You can now put glue on the bottom and glue it to your little platform with hot glue. I've got my little candle holder in position, and I'm ready to just give it a blob of glue and put the dowel back in. So with the glue on, now you can lift this up and down. Oops, I turned it too much. And this way you can get your candle in and out. It definitely works. So all we need now is some of the paper on the outside. So I'm just going to measure the distance between these two pieces, and we'll get as long a piece as we can. I think we're going to actually need two different ones, and we're just going to wrap paper around the post. We'll be gluing the paper down, so I'll be taking the glue gun, and I can't show this because I need two hands and my camera assistant went to bed. We are going to run a bead of hot glue along the outside of each of these posts, and one by one we'll be attaching the paper, pulling it tight as we go. I was right. In the end, I had to cut a piece that was just long enough to cover two panes exactly, and I glued them such that the edges are entirely flush. In fact, I can't find out where they are anymore. They're so flat. Here we go. You can see right there, but until you get up super close, you can't really tell that that is happening. So that is it. We have a candle burning in here. This now comes up and down. You can change out the candle. You can turn it on. You can turn it off. It goes back in, and voila. So there you have it. A simple medieval lantern that can be made cheaply and with equipment that you have around the house. And next time I do this, I will remember that in my toolkit, I have a saw bit for the drill that I could have used to drill that hole and have it be perfectly circular. But hey, at least we know that pumpkin cutter works, right?